Yo, what's up guys, welcome back. OCG Metagame Breakdown for September, like late of August, early September 2018. Couple of things caught my attention. Road of the King also uploaded a new metagame report number 8. All the links etc. will be in the video description. Again, shoutouts to of course Road of the King, ready for Duel as well. All the links will be in the video description for more written information and for the deck lists as well, you know, like always. Let's start off with Road of the King, right? Couple of metagame reports. Last week's video about the OCG metagame featured the Chinese National Championship, and as you will see, there are some differences, some differences between both China and Japan, of course, and some similarities as well, but I'll come back to that in a couple of moments. Two different metagame reports, one from last week from Japan, by the way, and one from this week. So uploaded like today, couple of hours ago. Let's dig into the first one, the one from last week, metagame report number 8. A couple of tournaments, about 13 tournaments were held during the weekend of, August 15 to August 21, and about 144 decks were gathered, so that's quite a lot actually. This is the breakdown. I don't think any surprises, as we have seen before in Japan, that is. Again, some differences between China, as you will see in a couple of moments, but Sky Strikers last week had this huge amount of representation, 41%, a lot of quote-unquote other decks, and there's a big gap here in this particular breakdown between Sky Striker, the first deck, the most represented deck, and then, deck number 2 and deck number 3 being both Altergeist and Gogis, sitting at, 12%, pretty much like, yeah, both at 12, so both Altergeist and Gogis, and then pretty much like the other lists we have seen, as we have mentioned last week, the Good Stuff Link decks and the Dark Warrior Link, it's like a combination of heroes, of Gogis, like all those shenanigans deck featuring Grass Looks Greener as well. 60 card decks, as I have mentioned before, like last week, are definitely on the rise, and I'm also looking at the Good Stuff Link deck, as it's supposedly called in the OCG, but again, lists will follow very, very soon. And then other decks, Spirals, ABCs as well, with ABC Dragon Busters still at 1 in the OCG. And here, the, well, quote-unquote loser, well, it's like a hard word, but you know what I mean. Thunder Dragons, they are just declining each week. Last week, I believe they were sitting at about 10%. But here in the breakdown of last week and of course this week, as you will see, Thunder Dragons, it's out of the top 5. It's not a contender anymore. Trickstars as well, and a couple of other lists, right? So let's dig into the general, analysis from last week as well. But again, a lot of similarities with the analysis of this week, as I've mentioned before. We have seen that Thunder Dragons as a deck is on a decline. So more players are just, leaving Thunder Dragons in favor of potentially decks like Altergeist, or, well, decks I've mentioned before, the 60 card Dark Warrior, Goki, Armageddonite, Dark Refer Shenanigans, or, the Good Stuff Link featuring Crystal Needlefiber and token generators, mainly Dandelion, for example, as you'll see again in a couple of moments. Again, very interesting, and that's also something that Road of the King mentions, is that both this week and last week here in the metagame analysis, if we combine the link spam decks, as in, extra linking your opponent, focusing on the Knightmare combination, if we add in these decks, add them up like Gogis, Dark Warrior Link, Good Stuff Link, Spirals, ABCs, like everything put together, that's a bigger representation than, a Sky Striker, so that's quite a lot, and that's definitely the case with the analysis from this week. So, Knightmare decks do have like a huge advantage over the Sky Strikers, and again, as I mentioned before here for last week, Sky Strikers sitting at about, well, not like half, about 50% as we see here. So Knightmare decks do have the advantage, or do have some nifty plays, like giving your opponent the ability, of course, prevent them from using their extra extra deck, bar of course the Link Summon, but you know what I mean, and put a Boral Sword on the field as well, and that's something where Knightmare, well, Troymare oriented decks do have the power to, right? And as we are seeing here in China, very similar results, but you know, the Dark Warrior Link decks, Goki decks were also quite popular in China, as we discussed last week, right? But again, the biggest similarity, similarity between both China and Japan is that, and as I've mentioned before, is that if we add in, at least if we add up all the Knightmare Link shenanigans decks, like again, Good Stuff Link, the Dark Warrior builds, Gokis, etc., then that particular representation, it's very similar to the representation of Sky Striker, so that's something to keep in mind. As for the Sky Striker list, nothing too spectacular, I guess. A couple of things here. First of all, we see the rise of Skullmeister. Again, Skullmeister is definitely a very good pick against those Link spam decks. Get rid of their Destiny Hero Malicious, Dandelion, Doppel Warrior, Glowable, Jet Synchron. I mean, again, superb card. It also, you know, is unaffected by Magical Midbreaker Field, which has been like a staple in a lot of, well, I can't really call it a staple, but it has been popular in a lot of decks, right, in the OCG. Next to Skullmeister, we also see different dimension ground. Again, like a no-brainer against those pesky 60 card decks. Again, superb if you can use against your opponent's grass looks green, or pretty much should be like your win condition, your win button on that moment. As Alter guys as well, the particular list used here went 7-0-1, so 7 wins, 1 draw, I believe, and this particular list only ran one Scapegoat, as somewhat different, I guess, which is good. I mean, a lot of people are main or side decking Red Reboot, and you know, Scapegoat dodges Red Reboot. It's unaffected by Red Reboot, and Scapegoat can both be used offensively and defensively. So Scapegoat can go for Summon Sorceress in the OCG, indeed in the OCG with Link Rebo and Security Dragon, and well, opening up more Link shenanigans plays. But of course, it can also be used for some defense, and of course, again, as I mentioned before, it's not hindered by Red Reboot. This particular list also decided to side deck Grand Horn of Heaven. Well, it has been a couple of years actually that I have seen this card in play, competitive play, but this particular player used it in his side deck. As for Gokis, and that's also mentioned here on Word of the King's website, is the drop of Pancratops, you know, the Dino Wrestler monster. Quite of a good card, but again, people just prefer cards like Twin Twister and the third or extra impermanence in the side deck, right? So again, that's understandable. Grass looks greener decks are definitely very popular, so you know, people definitely want to side deck against those, and of course they're very cool play, one of those nifty plays that Dark Link hero, the Dark Warrior deck has, is Isolde into Neospatian Aqua Dolphin, get rid of your opponent's hand trap, and then go for Summon Sorceress and go from there, right? So again, that's very shady 60 card deck. So that's pretty much it for the analysis of last week. And then for this week, a lot of similarities, right? Both metagame report number 9, number 10. New product release was the Shinobi Necro, one of the new level 2 tuners. I'm anxiously awaiting, as you know, as we are talking about zombies, of the release of, Vendreds in the OCG, and definitely looking forward to that. As for this week, so today it was posted, here we see, a drop in Sky Strikers, only sitting at about like 24%. Alter, guys, is coming really close, super back row heavy deck, followed by Gokis. Yep, here it is, Goki, Dark Warrior, and good Link stuff, as you will see in a couple of moments. So as for the Sky Strikers, well, not really too many changes, as we saw from last week, is that the amount of Thunder Dragon decks has been declining, right? So people are dropping the Ghost Bells from their main deck, same for Impermanence, and of course more Effect Failure, since Effect Failure is good against the second best deck in the OCG, being Altergeist. Effect Failure on the field leaves you the option to use Twin Twister against your opponent's Secret Village, if he does have that face up in his field spell zone, of course. I'm talking against Altergeists. So this was the Sky Striker list. Indeed, so for Altergeist again, well, Lord of the King mentions Super Polymerization. Not really sure how many copies are allowed of Super Poly in the OCG. It's of course banned in the TCG. Again, a super powerful card. Again, it's like a side deck stable against Thunder Dragons. I mean, you have the option to, what is it called, to go for the Predaplant Dragos Tapili, I believe its name is, depending on which monsters your opponent has on this side of the field. Same for the option of going for Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, as you see here in the extra deck. But again, Super Poly against those decks is definitely very, very strong. Same for like Deplexer Chimera, I believe its name is. All definitely options here in the extra deck as targets for Super Polymerization, right? And again, as you know, Super Poly cannot be negated, so as you know, if your opponent goes first, puts up an extra link board featuring Tri-Gate Wizard, which again is super easy in the format where Needle Fiber is very easy to be made with basically any 2-card combination in your deck. Again, Super Poly, this Tri-Gate Wizard cannot negate Super Poly, and that one card can bring you back in the duel, right? As for Gokis, one nice tech here is Token Collector, but again, as mentioned on Lord of the King, it might be like a niche tech. Well, it's again very popular against those good link stuff decks, because you know they're heavily relying on token cards like Dandelion, Crystron, Rosenix, the O-Line, the Phantom Mega Beast O-Line, the Steam the Cloak, you know. So Token Collector is definitely a niche card in the side deck against those particular decks, but if again, as we see here in the breakdown, is that those decks aren't really that popular, well, sitting at about 10%, so that's not really that much, and maybe you want to, you know, keep your extra deck open for other possibilities, right? The good stuff link, as you see here, it's basically like, again, the name says it all. It's just speed turbo into your Crystron Needle Fiber, which again is such easy. You can make it so easy with basically any card combination here in the deck. And if you have the free Needle Fiber, you know you can go for Align, summon Sorceress, and go for Cherubini in the same process. And as you know, Dandelion is still legal, and you know Cherubini equals your Dandelion, sends it to the graveyard, and that already sets up your Firewall Dragon combination. So again, it's just Needle Fiber is just the heart and soul of this particular deck, right? And yeah, again, so that's pretty much it. A couple of other lists that caught my attention, maybe interesting, is like 60 card Burning Abyss. That might be nifty. We also see like Mech Knights, but first place at the particular locals in the OCG, but that's pretty much it, right? Thunder Dragons, again, as I mentioned before, is pretty much on a decline. This is a very strange list. We see like ABCs, like Stun ABC featuring Inspector Border, but well, all those traps. Crazy stuff. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment or like if you enjoyed the video. Lithium signing out. Peace.